I'd like to share with you a 5-step manual that can have anyone grow into the kind of person that they want to be. And this is true, especially for people that have tried many things to grow: practices, steps, trying to feel better, trying to do things differently in your life to feel better, but it's not really working and nothing really works. This 5-step manual will work for you if you apply it into your life. Now, I created this because this is what I did and do for myself anytime I'm wanting to feel better, I'm wanting to be a different person, I'm wanting to shift something externally in my life, like a situation, or I'm wanting to shift something internally in my life, like how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And I apply this exact principle to everything, and it always works. All right, so let's get started. Number one, it's not about changing behavior. It's about shifting who we are. So yes, you can change behaviors. You can stop eating junk food and start eating healthy food. That will have you feel better. You can exercise more and find things, the kinds of exercise that you like that will help you feel better, and not watch as much TV, right? You can spend times in silence versus listening to media all the time or content all the time. You can change those behaviors, and those will help you feel better and help you grow. But fundamentally, that's not what will really do it, because changing behavior will shift a certain experience within us, but it won't necessarily, it can, but it won't necessarily shift who we are, especially if we're the kind of person who's really struggling with something. So the question then becomes principle 2. How do we shift who we are? How do we do this? Well, we shift how we feel. Who we are is fundamentally how we feel on some level. The experience of who we are is always felt. It's not thought. We have a lot of thoughts that inspire feelings, but fundamentally, when we identify and have the experience of who we are, it's through our feelings. So we need to look at how we shift how we feel. Again, you can go back to changing behaviors and doing different things in your life, which is great. And again, it can be helpful, and it is helpful. I do that, right? And if we want lasting, deep change, fundamentally in our experience of our life, we need to shift who we are by shifting how we feel. So this brings us to principle 3. How do we shift our feelings? 2 things. We decide. Number 1, we decide that we are going to feel differently about different things. Now, how do we do that? This gets a little bit complex, even though it's simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Let me say it that way. So we decide that we are going to feel differently about different things in our life. Now, this is the part where we lose a lot of people, because they say, and I've said this before, how could I feel differently about something? I'm having a certain experience. I'm feeling something about it. I can't just snap my fingers, and expect to feel differently about something. And that's true. So this is the thing that we do. Number 1, we become aware and accept the feelings that we have about some circumstance. Let's say we get in a car accident. We bust up our car. We're already low on money. It's a whole thing. It becomes a whole situation. We've got to find a ride to work, whatever it is. It becomes a whole thing, and we're going to have a lot of feelings about that. A friend of mine just told me and said that she's going to have to move after just getting settled in her new home because the owners are selling her house, and she's going to have to rent someplace else. So there are going to be feelings about it. It's okay. You don't have to shift the feelings that you're having right now in this moment. The first thing we want to do is become aware of them, in the depth of them, feel them and accept them, and have them just be present for a minute, right? And I'm putting a minute in quotes. It could be literally a minute, or it could be a day as your minute. Whatever it is, just hang there for a second, feel them. Not too long though, right? We don't want to get to the point of indulging them. Because what happens when we indulge in those contracted, unpleasant feelings is we unintentionally reinforce the belief that has us feel that it's a bad thing, right? So we are at number 3. We are shifting our feelings by deciding. And how are we doing that? We're becoming aware and accepting the feelings. Then this brings us to number 4. How do we shift our feelings? We shift our feelings by looking at our beliefs. And how do we shift our beliefs? We shift our beliefs by examining them, right? Let's take my car accident example. Well, is it going to be unpleasant doing all those things? Well, it certainly will if we think it's going to be, right? And this is the profound shift that happens when we wish to grow and become fundamentally a different person. If we want to become a resilient person, we want to feel peace, we want to feel joy, if we want to feel inspiration, it's going to take radically examining and then shifting our belief structure. So in the example of the car accident, we might start playing with, first we feel the disappointment, the upset, the anger, the frustration, blah, 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 fine. Okay, got it. Then we shift to, here's just an idea of how you could feel about this. How is this going to make my life better? Because one of the things that I've taken on over the last few years, which has had profound consequences in my life, profound positive consequences in my life, is that I always know what's happening in my life is going to make my life better. Now, interestingly enough, I have known many people in my life who had the opposite belief, that what was happening in their life was going to make their life worse, or it could make their life worse. And then sometimes it does. It makes their life worse. And they don't look back on all the things that have happened in their lives as things that have led to them being more resilient or more powerful or more confident or more mature or more wise. They see them as those things happening, of taking them down, of beating them down, and they're worse off because those things happened. Now, for me and many people that I work with who are high achievers and feel extraordinary every day of their lives, they don't allow those kinds of beliefs, because they are beliefs, not experiences. Remember, experiences are shaped by beliefs. So they don't allow those kinds of beliefs to have that kind of an impact on them. So we're at number 4, shifting beliefs. How do we look at shift the beliefs? We examine the beliefs that are limiting, and we find the limiting beliefs. And then with someone else who wants us to have what we want, we look at those beliefs and we examine them and we decide to shift them. And my example is one of maybe 1,000 of those beliefs that will make your life better. And then the last thing that we do, this 5-step manual for creating anyone to grow and dramatically up-level their life, is shift your practices. So meaning, it brings us back to that first number 1. It's not about changing behavior, it's about shifting who we are. And we need to practice this, right? So if you're in the world, in the practice of shifting your beliefs, you're going to want to practice shifting beliefs. You know, when bad things happen, quote unquote, and we look at them and we experience them, we're aware of how we feel, we accept the feelings that we have around it. It sucks in that moment for us. And then we remember, oh, right, somehow this is going to make my life better. I don't know how. And it's fine that I don't know how, but I refuse to believe, I refuse to allow this circumstance to make my life worse. Somehow I am going to create, or there is meaning that is going to be created for me that is going to make the experience of my life better. Just as an example. And in addition to shifting those kinds of thought practices, we'll need to change our physical practices, going back to exercise, going back to healthy eating, going back to what we watch, because all of those pieces shape our beliefs. So it becomes a cycle. Practice this and let me know how it goes.